Welcome on into the Baseball Insiders, the only baseball podcast that will fight Tommy Pham any place, anytime. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB Insider Robert Murray to help break down the weekend of ball. A couple new teams entering the deadline rumor fray, and a new pitcher is joining the San Diego Padres. We will get down to all of it. And the Mariners have a new center fielder, too, in the last half hour. Robert Murray, thank you for joining me. As always, we got a lot to get through today.
Yes, we do. Lots to get through today. I'm finally back from California, which is where I went after the last podcast, so it feels good to be back in Scottsdale, but lots to break down today. Got lots of thoughts about the trade deadline and also the Seattle Mariners making a move for an outfielder today. And also broke some news this morning about the Padres calling up one of their top prospects. Got some insight on how that went down and what to look forward to there. But before we dive into that, Adam Weinrib, how are you?
I am good. I did not break any news about the San Diego Padres this morning, but I am excited to help you dive into it and break it down. For the folks, I know we got Padres fan listeners. Thanks for joining us. Everybody, before we get into it, before the trade deadline is upon us, which is soon, but maybe we could just start it now. That might be fun. This episode is brought to you by, everybody, say with me. I'll turn on your mics. No, DraftKings. They're offering a no sweat bet sign up bonus for new users, new customers who sign up with the code Baseball Insider and deposit at least $5 will receive a no sweat bet up to $1,500 of bonus bucks on their first wager. This means if you place a first bet of $50 and you lose, you'll receive a $50 credit in bonus bets straight to your account up to $1,500. You'll also receive one single game parlay reward every day. If you use our code Baseball Insider right at sign up, that not only gets you these bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, now's the time. Make sure you use the code Baseball Insider to maximize that first bet. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. And for our all-star members in the Discord, we will see you on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, in an exclusive all-star Zoom. Let us know. We'll give you the link, obviously, ahead of that Zoom. That's a perk of the membership. We'll have one at the end of the month as well, and we're going to do 2 in July to keep it rolling through the deadline to make up for some scheduling quirks of earlier in the year. We'd love to see anyone who isn't yet in the Discord join us. It's the only place you'll have access to Robert and myself between shows, and occasionally Robert will even tweet that you've been DFA'd by the Chicago Cubs if you beg for it quite forcefully enough. So that is an option for you as well if you want to join us in the Discord.
Yeah, that's, Jacob Zanola, he's a guy that likes to poke the bear a little bit. And yeah, and in response to one he sent to me earlier, he was indeed designated for assignment by the Chicago Cubs. That is just one of the many perks you get from being in the Discord. I can confidently tell you, if you join the Discord, you will be one of the most informed fans in baseball. You will even sometimes know news before I even break it. I ended up teasing the Adam Azar call-up last night and this morning. So Padres fans were plenty informed there. There was lots of good info that was shared in there. So I could not recommend more doing that. Plus, it's an awesome community. And yeah, just a good time. I recommend joining and all that good stuff.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the Discord already. And if you're not there and you'd like to be, we'll see you there soon. A not so awesome community in the place we're going to start today's show. The New York Mets, it's not the most fun fandom to be a part of. I'm going to be totally blunt with you. I share a city with the New York Mets, and I don't think those people feel too much joy on a daily basis. Hey, look at this list of players Bob Nightingale says the Mets are currently shopping as they fall further and further out of the wild card race, with the potential to become the 2024 deadline's biggest sellers out of nowhere. The list includes Pete Alonso, maybe heard of him, JD Martinez, Luis Severino on a one-year deal, Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana, Adam Ottavino, Jake Diekman, Reed Garrett, Jeff McNeil, Harrison Bader, Starling Marte. First of all, are you hearing similar intel about David Stearns flirting with blowing it all up this summer? Lots to get through here, but man, that's a whole lot of Mets as they fall further into the dumps.
Yeah, I can't say I've heard similar. I think shopping might be a little strong. If they're listening, then you can't blame them. They're where they are right now, kind of warrants it. And clearly that clubhouse has some issues. We saw what happened with Jorge Lopez, and just the vibes there have kind of just seemed off. I think that's putting it kind of lightly.
We're treading the line there. It's something slightly off in the Mets clubhouse. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it's that guy throwing a glove at people.
Yeah, I mean that could be it. Who knows? But that was one of the more bizarre things that we've seen in quite some time. That might be the most bizarre thing we've seen since the Tommy Pham Jock Peterson punch,
or the Tommy Pham William Contreras punch.
Which we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyways, there's a lot of weird stuff going around, and this Mets, like where they are right now in the standings and how they're performing, it definitely warrants a conversation about them being sellers at the deadline. And a lot of the players that Nightingale listed, you have a Pete Alonso, a JD Martinez, Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana, Adam Ottavino, Harrison Bader, Jeff McNeil, and Starling Marte. There's plenty of guys that are quality players there, but a lot of them have one thing in common. They're on expiring contracts. And I think that makes them very feasible trade targets for these teams. I'm still skeptical, though, about them trading Pete Alonso because, as Andy Martino of SNY reported, when David Stearns took over, they did not entertain any conversations about a Pete Alonso trade. They shut down the door on any thought of a Pete Alonso trade, wanted to have him as a long-term building block. And obviously now, with him being on an expiring contract and the Mets being where they're at right now, it wouldn't surprise me if they do indeed listen on Alonso. I think that situation warrants it for sure, but the odds of I just don't think they're going to end up pulling the trigger on a deal unless they're blown away. And he struggled this year. I mean, so are they really going to end up getting fair value for him back in return? I'm kind of skeptical about that. So my guess is that they hold on to him and then try to extend him in the offseason. Who knows? Maybe the idea of trading him now and then trying to sign him back in the offseason could end up being something they're thinking about internally. I don't know. But we've seen it done before with Robles Chapman being traded to the Cubs and then immediately re-signing with the Yankees that same offseason. So, I mean, there's history of it, but it's tricky. And I think the Mets may not want to play with fire here and may want to just have the best shot at retaining Alonso long-term, and that's by keeping him at the deadline and moving forward with him the rest of the year.
And take it from a Yankee fan, we sure are glad that happened. Man, trading Aroldis Chapman and bringing him back. Brian Cashman, another feather in your cap. Thanks for the long-term deal for a closer who's volatile. And then also you brought him back again later. Why did you do that? Well, we've talked enough in recent weeks, months, sort of about the Alonso fit. And it felt like this offseason there was a lot of laying the groundwork for Alonso to the Cubs, whether it was mid-season, after the season on a free agent contract, etc. Now the Cubs have taken a similar step back. That would feel like a weird mid-season fit. And so in terms of destinations for any of these available players, I'm having trouble, finding an obvious fit. But I will say JD Martinez feels like he could be a very sneaky summer steal for somebody based on the way he's been hitting the ball in a lot of these Mets games that I don't think the fans have watched. He's basically a metronome out there, and he's been very clutch in a couple of tough Mets losses or tight Mets wins that ultimately have not vaulted them towards the top of the standings. Bader has been on his way out of town ever since he named 3 Yankees on his New York sports Mount Rushmore. First of all, Mount Rushmores have 4 people. Second, just throw some Mets fans a bone, put a Nick on there. I mean, Jeter, Judge, and Volpe was his New York sports Mount Rushmore. That's asking for trouble. I wonder if you are, does a trade fit come to mind for any of these players just right off the dome for you?
Yeah, I'll start with Alonso because we ended up mentioning, you ended up mentioning the Cubs as a potential fit here. I mean, that seems like it's been it seems like it's been speculated about a lot. I am kind of skeptical there. Ultimately, as I said, that I don't think he's going to end up being traded. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of these teams that get mentioned with him, but I think the Cubs become a more serious contender for him in the offseason if he does indeed reach free agency, and he's represented by Scott Boras. So you got to imagine that he's going to end up testing the open market and trying to get as big of a contract as possible there. So I think the Cubs become more of a fair possibility for him in the offseason as opposed to now. I think JD Martinez, I think the way you shouted him out there as a candidate for some of these teams looking for a DH especially contending teams, I think it makes a whole lot of sense there. He's signed to a super cheap and affordable contract. I think he's probably one of the more intriguing trade candidates at the deadline. I think there's going to be just a long list of contending teams after him. And I would not be surprised at all if the Mets ended up moving him. And it could even sooner rather than later, because we've seen some of these teams, especially the Padres, go out and get some of these guys early on, like Luis Ariz. That trade happened out of the blue way early in the season. So I think that makes plenty of sense. I also think in terms of their starting pitching, they have some good starting pitching available. And I think with the way that the Brewers have a need for starting pitching, and considering David Stearns' familiarity with the Brewers' organizational depth and like their talent overall, I think that's something that could bear watching. That's just me speculating on a fit more than anything. But we've already seen them come together on one deal already, where it sent Tyrone Taylor and Adrian Hauser to the Mets early on in the season. We got a tweet from, Jose Urquidy could need Tommy John surgery for the Houston Astros, according to Alden Gonzalez and Jeff Passan. So I will say one of the more sinking feelings in the entire world is seeing a Jeff Passan tweet notification that starts with the word breaking. That is, as a reporter who tries to compete with Passan, that is often a very bad and sinking feeling. So hopefully that's not indeed the case for Urquidy, but whenever Passan and Alden Gonzalez team up for something, that's usually a sign that things it's right. So not good.
Nope. I can't count out the Astros until literally the clock is struck on their playoff eligibility, but it's certainly getting pretty close to dire for that team. And we will definitely be talking about the Houston Astros with regard to the trade deadline as well, because there's a chance it's not early anymore. It's now June, under 2 months till that deadline. They have to turn it on quick, or else they're probably going to be forced to sell, forced to make some difficult decisions on an Alex Bregman type. And we will obviously we'll have to have different conversations that we're used to having about the Houston Astros, who are usually chasing a third ace at the deadline, and this year might be having to evaluate themselves differently. There was also, I got an alert during this podcast that was extremely jarring. Did you see the Lindsay Adler Wall Street Journal work that there's a potential ban being floated for Tucupita Marcano for sports betting during his time in the minor leagues, along with 4 other as yet unnamed players who might also receive lifetime bans for sports betting violations in the minor leagues?
Did not see that.
Yeah, so not a lot of detail there. I just related the detail to everyone. That's what we got. But again, if more drops during the show, stay tuned. We'll have a discussion about that. Maybe a Thursday discussion as more details leak out. But just so everybody knows, we did see it, and we'll dive to the bottom of that. And that sounds like an episode title for Thursday's show. But
yes, it does. By the way, also the fact, one thing I want to do is give a shout out here to Lindsay Adler, who broke that story. She's one of the best baseball writers in the country. So good work by Lindsay there.
Yeah. One of the best baseball writers in the country, who I once saw on my block with her dog and was too nervous to stop. So
Fisher, great dog.
Yep. Saw Fisher in person from the window of a car. Obviously was not going to say hi to Lindsay from the window of a car, but I don't really know why I said any of that. She rules and made me want to go say hi to both Lindsay and the dog.
Hey, you know what? Lindsay's very nice, so you should have said hi. I think she would have liked that.
I should have turned the car around and gotten out and gone, hey,
way to go.
Yeah.
The show's officially got off the rails.
Off the rails. Lindsay, I would love to talk baseball in a different context, not in the road. But while we're here, Victor Robles to the Mariners. Mariners making moves. We're early on the moves. Victor Robles, not exactly, I don't think, where we expected him to go, especially to an offense-starved team. The Mariners leading the AL West at the moment, could use improvements across the board. Never afraid to throw a dart at a dartboard and see if they can unlock someone else's potential. Victor Robles is 2019 standout. The offensive numbers have declined to the point of being unusable in the years since then. The defense still comes with a reputation of someone who is quite special at their peak, but unrealized potential for the Washington Nationals. Now safe to say the player we thought we were getting, not the player we got. I would still expect the Mariners to go out and add additional players in the name of improving that offense, considering they already fired their offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator, by the way, not a typical position that you hear, but if the offense is your focus and you're not coordinating it, then you got to go. Quick thoughts on the potential fit here, especially because it leaves the Mariners with more unfulfilled needs.
Yeah, it's an interesting move, and it's a high upside move for the Mariners that's going to come at relatively no cost. Is Robles is someone who is immensely talented, but you talk to people in and around that situation with Robles in Washington, everyone kind of came to the same consensus, was that he was a guy who would benefit from a change of scenery. And maybe Seattle's not like the perfect place for it, but I think it's going to end up being an opportunity where he can end up going and getting in a better direction than he previously was. And he's going to get plenty of opportunities. My understanding is that he'll get most of his opportunities against left-handed pitching. So we should see, hopefully for the Mariners, some improved results there. I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's going to end up being a move where they can move on at relatively no cost. That being said, I'm told that Robles actually has not signed this deal quite yet. So, I mean, it's in agreement, not pen to paper yet, though. So I'm under the impression that it will be official tomorrow because the Mariners still have to make a move on the 40-man. So the deal is going to get done, but it's not done quite yet. But, Robles is now in Seattle and is going to begin the process of trying to move on from what happened in Washington, because he underperformed at Washington, and there's a lot of people in baseball who think he can be meaningfully better than he was there.
Well, plenty could happen between now and putting pen to paper. He could lose his pen. He could be stuck in a room without pens. The printer could fail. It might not get that paper. So lots of
fax machine might not work either. Who knows?
You never know. I mean, we don't know how Robles comports himself vis-a-vis pens, how many of them he carries on his person at any given time, and how anti-pen the Seattle clubhouse is. So stay tuned there. But obviously, corresponding move still to come. We will have to keep our eyes there. Coors, in terms of moves that may not materialize at all, Blue Jays head honcho Ross Atkins got on the horn and pretty forcefully spoke about the Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. rumors that have at least dominated our comment section in recent weeks and months. Quote, "It just doesn't make any sense for us." He also endorsed John Schneider as manager and endorsed Vlad Jr. so hard the Jays played him at third. They're just messing around now, I guess. Either Atkins is playing hardball here or the last place adjacent Jays. It might be time to give up on this trade deadline dream for their rivals, not for Jays fans, because it does not seem like something they're really entertaining, even as they sort of tread water in the AL East.
I've tried telling you guys.
He really has tried to tell you.
I have written three separate stories about this and said it numerous times on the podcast that I did not expect Vlad Jr. or Bo Bichette to get traded. Some of you listened, so I thank you for that, but most of you did not. And now Ross Atkins said it would not make a lot of sense, or it would not make any sense for them to trade either Bo Bichette or Vlad Jr. And that was pretty definitive, and that would make me think that neither of them are going to get dealt. So I think we can kind of put these rumors to bed unless something astronomical happens. You can never fully rule out something. So I'm going to say there's probably a very, 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 very slim chance that they're moved. But it makes sense because Vlad Jr. is someone who is immensely talented. We've seen him bounce back after a really slow start this year. Power numbers weren't like really there for him, but he was still being a very productive player for them. Bo Bichette's struggling this year. There's no way of really hiding that. He was way underperforming. And I mean, moving him now, they would have probably gotten pennies on the dollar for him. And that's just not something that I think they were in a hurry to do. But what I think is up front of mind for them is they want to compete. And having Vlad Jr. and having Bo Bichette, who are both very talented homegrown players, gives them the best shot at competing, both this year and also next year. And I think that's something that is front of mind for them because they want to compete next year. And moving either of them would have signaled to the clubhouse that they were punting on this year, and they probably were not going to win next year. So I think they're going to try to move some of the players on expiring contracts this year. I think Kikuchi is a name that's definitely worth watching, but just Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, I didn't think they were really going to go anywhere. And Ross Atkins' comments seemingly confirmed that, but you just never know until it's over. But I would be pretty surprised if they're moved.
I would be as well. I would have been before the comments. I still will be now. Now, endorsing John Schneider so full-throatedly, that surprises me a little bit more. I was expecting maybe a little bit more hot seat drama there, and I guess we could still get it. But Vlad and Bo, not stunned.
Yeah, no, I agree. And well, there's passing with I struggle pronouncing his name. I don't want to get that wrong by accident.
Yeah, something tells me we're all going to be getting the pronunciation of this guy a lot over the coming days, and no one's going to be getting it wrong by Thursday's show because baseball has unfortunately been reckoning with something like this for quite a while. But yeah, more to come there for sure. Marcano to come in faction. Oops. Why did I say that? What was a worse flub? Me saying Marcano to come or saying I wanted to say hi to Lindsay Adler and wasting 7 minutes on that discussion? You decide. Weigh in the comments. While you decide, let's talk about this morning's Padres news because you did have a call up early. The Padres' number 5 prospect, Adam Mazur, is set to debut Tuesday for a team that could really use a break here without Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove for quite a while. Not sure if he is somebody who you've long had high expectations for, but I know you've got some pitching prospects that you've been keeping an eye on for quite a while, and your scouting report here is pretty extensive. So what can you tell us about what the Padres and their fans can expect for a rotation that could really use an infusion of youth?
Yeah, so full disclosure on this, I found out about Mazar probably being called up to start Tuesday. I found that out during a wedding. Or during like the dinner or whatever. And I was explicitly told that I should get off my phone because if I was on my phone more, I would have it thrown into a lake. And I did not want to actually follow through on that and have it thrown into a lake because that'd be bad for business. But me telling that story is just, it shows that this move's been coming for a few days now. And it does not come as a surprise at all. There were indications that the Padres were getting close to calling him up. And with Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish's injuries, the need was absolutely there. And they ended up calling him up to start Tuesday. He is someone who the Padres are very high on. They very much like him. I believe he is the first pitcher from the 2022 class to be called up and start in a game. So that is, I think he's got that going for him. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm like 90% sure, give or take. But if you look at his arsenal, he has a fastball that can touch 98. He's got a slider that is a really strong impact pitch. He's also got a curveball and a changeup in his arsenal as well. But what he really is known for is the slider, but also his control. He only walked about he had a 4.5% walk percentage in 2024. So that's very good. He's someone the Padres believe can make an impact in the major league level. I know he struggled a little bit in the PCL, but there's a lot of players or a lot of pitchers specifically who struggle in the PCL. So I don't think the Padres are going to hold that against him, but they needed it. They needed a starter. They thought Mazar was ready for it, and now he's on the verge of making his debut. And I know the Padres and both Mazar and the Padres have very high expectations here and hope that this can end up being the start of just a long-term presence for them in the rotation.
I'm still keeping my eye on your guy Mizorowski too, so I don't think I've forgotten about maybe potentially seeing that second half.
No, also too. So Justin, I see your comments here. I know you're asking this question. I don't know what the corresponding move is here. If I knew, I would tell you, but I genuinely don't know. But Mizorowski, I think my intel suggests that he's going to end up being probably called up later in the year, and he could end up being probably second half of the year, and could probably pitch out of the bullpen. That's my guess, but I would look for a late season call up for Jacob Mizorowski if he stays healthy, of course.
Yeah, knock on wood, because the more disgusting filth we can get from the minor league level to the majors pipeline as the season goes on, the better. Well, the Brewers were involved in the viral moment of the weekend too. Might as well touch on this before we sign off and open it up to any questions. If anybody has some in the comments, we'd welcome them. What the hell was going on between William Contreras and Tommy Pham? First of all, Pham gunned down to the plate by a significant margin. Tag out, bench is clear, etc. Pham putting up his dukes, doing a little shadow boxing across the infield. Somehow the Brewers managed to get themselves into brawls with every team this season. And this one, I would call Pham the aggressor here, but not shocked at all that it was the fighting Milwaukee Brewers that ended up provoking his ire. After the game, Pham said, quote, "There's a reason why I do all kinds of fighting in the offseason. Put your earmuffs on, kids, because I'm prepared to fuck somebody up." But then he didn't on the field, actually. So I guess I'm sort of torn here. Whether we should mess with Pham or not mess with Pham at this point, like, what's the worst that could happen? Is he actually going to follow through, or is he just going to shadow box and then talk to the media about how he was totally ready to fight you, but then his aunt called and needed him to come home and it's urgent and he'll see you next week? Like, do we believe him when he says he fights and trains all offseason? And should I regret already poking Tommy Pham there? Like, will he maybe come on the podcast and kick my ass?
I would not rule that out at all. I think poking the bear here and even questioning Tommy Pham is a very dangerous game to play, because we've seen him. He is not afraid to speak his mind, and he's not afraid to throw a punch if needed.
He's been about that action once before. We have seen him go for it. So
yeah, that's the one thing, is there's so many players and people in general who are all bark and no bite. But Tommy Pham barks, and he's got a lot of bite, and I would not mess with him at all. I think I don't know what William Contreras said, but I mean, we saw Tommy Pham's path to home plate the other night, and he was way out of the baseline. Like, I don't like, that was right there. Like, my first impression watching that video. And then I don't know what was said that poked the bear so much, but yeah, it's just very, very odd overall, that entire situation. I thought we were going to have a Jock Peterson moment ×2. Who knows? Maybe Tommy Pham and the Brewers end up getting reunited later in the season. And Pham could throw a punch and try to retaliate against Contreras, because Lord knows he doesn't forget, because that Peterson incident ended up happening a year after it originally happened. So I don't know. Who knows? But I would not underestimate Tommy Pham. He is somebody who he's not afraid to speak his mind. So Adam, I would watch your back. William Contreras, who knows? I don't think that's the last we're going to hear of it, but I've been wrong before. But yeah, it's going to be just another bizarre situation in the life of Tommy Pham here.
Yeah, and he's probably a deadline mover. So the fact that somebody is going to acquire Tommy Pham on the heels of putting up the Dukes and running around the infield and threatening to fight an entire Milwaukee Brewers team, something tells me, hey, everybody, I mean, don't aggregate this now, but I do want you to clip it for future use.
Oh boy.
The fact that we just got Pham v. Brewers in June sets up so nicely for Tommy Pham returning to the St. Louis Cardinals at the deadline. Now the Cardinals are relevant and maybe buyers rather than sellers at this point. And so down the stretch, get some more Pham Brewers clashes. I mean, am I out of pocket there? It almost feels scripted.
Honestly, that sounds like a very Cardinals move. Can you imagine that rivalry? I mean, the Cardinals and Brewers already hate each other, but adding Tommy Pham to that, who's now got beef with William Contreras, who's one of the best players in the Brewers, that could make for some very exciting theater here. So I'm kind of rooting for that to happen, but I don't think you're far off on that at all. I think that's a good thing to clip for you, Adam. When you said that originally, I was quite concerned, but like that's the goods. I like that. That's a good call by you.
Yeah, clip me, Pham against the Brewers down the stretch for control of the NL Central. Smash cut to Cardinals, Diamondbacks in the wild card round. Pham against his old team and against Jock Peterson. Again, winner takes on an NLDS berth. So that's my clip of the day. Outlandish prediction that will be proven incorrect in a matter of months. But guess what? You can't prove me wrong until the end of July. So until then, I'm sitting pretty. And we all are, because the trade deadline is kind of, sort of, almost upon us, or at least now we can talk about it. Robert Murray, we're entering boom times. Good stuff is ahead of us here for sure on the Baseball Insiders. As MLB continues to give us the goods and the Mets continue entertaining a teardown, and Tommy Pham maybe volunteers to tear the Mets down with his own bare hands, because he apparently has the bare knuckle strength to get that accomplished. Thank you, as always, for talking me through the latest buzz, and shout out to everyone who joined us today.
No, I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Adam, I appreciate you having me. I'm sure I'm going to try to figure out these other names now. in this MLB betting investigation or gambling investigation. So that's going to be my task for the rest of the day. But appreciate everyone who tuned in. We'll see everyone, especially in the All-Star channel. We'll see them for the private call on Wednesday, show on Thursday. It's going to be a crazy week. I am so here for it. You have absolutely no idea. Let's get it, baby.
Let's get it. See you All-Stars later in the week on Wednesday. Again, like Robert said, see everybody here live on Thursday. I'll be here next Monday for a show. Then I'm taking a vacation over to Italy. If anyone has Italy tips, hit me up. I will ignore them, but I'll appreciate that you reached out. Just kidding. I will listen to them all. And in my absence, I think we're probably going to have some fun guests on the show.
We're going to have some very good guests on the show. I've already got 2 lined up, and they are very exciting. Very exciting. I think baseball fans will absolutely love them. You can guess in the comments or even the Discord on who those guests may be. And I'm working on 2 others who are friends of the program. So it shall be a good time. Let's just say that. It's going to be a good time, but we're going to miss Adam very much. And hopefully he doesn't forget about us, although I don't think he will.
No, I won't forget about you and everybody. The question will be if you forget about me after you see who these guests are. So again, drop your guesses in the comments, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be like, oh, wasn't there a co-host on this show once upon a time? We're good now. This is rolling. We're working with some good stuff here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, DraftKings, the promo is Baseball Insider. See you All-Stars on Wednesday night for a fun chat on a private Zoom. And until Thursday's show, otherwise, take care of yourselves, everybody. I'm sure we'll have much more on the developing story when we see you next time.
No, that we will. And we appreciate everyone. And we'll be talking about this plenty on Thursday.
Take care, y'all.